Hello everybody, this is my garden enclosure. This is an extension of my garden. I'm very proud of it, and I'm here to tell you a little bit about how it came about and why I have it. So during the height of COVID, everyone realizes that I started my real gardening journey. And I was tired of squirrels and rodents and rabbits and deer getting into my plants that I really like a lot and eating them. So we hired someone to come in and build me a garden enclosure. So it's small, but I am a practical gardener. I have a very small garden, and this helps me protect a lot of the plants that I care the most about. So in this, I put a lot of peppers. I've grown tomatoes in it before. I grow a lot of green beans, but mostly things that don't have to be pollinated by bees because the wire on it is so thin, and the holes are so close together, a lot of the bees and pollinators can't actually go in. In the future, I'm going to look to replace the wire with chicken wire so, bees and everything and pollinators can go in and out. I plant a few flowers in here once a year, mostly peppers, bell peppers, hot peppers, peppers, super hot peppers, green beans, carrots are what I have in here now. So what I'll do is most of the time I come out, there's a shelf on the inside that I'll sit stuff on, and then I have a little crate here that I sit on, and eventually I'm gonna replace the rocks in the middle, to make it go up a little bit higher because a lot of the stuff has settled since I got this garden enclosure built. I do have a set of chimes on the inside as well as some lights so that at night if someone walks past it or something walks past it, it will light up the enclosure at nighttime. So this is my garden enclosure, and eventually I'm going to give you a brief tour of the inside and outside and what I have growing in my garden. What I have growing in the garden this year are a lot of carrots that I'm eventually going to check the depth to see if any of them are of decent size to pick out. So in here are my carrots that have been planted from seed, and I'm very proud of them. I wasn't quite sure that they were going to come up based off the time in which I planted them because it was very cold outside. So here we go. I planted these, I want to say early May, and we have pretty big carrots so far. I am going to check them to make sure that they don't go to seed anytime soon, but very bushy. I'm just hoping that the taproot is big as well. Also in the garden enclosure this year, we have green beans. Green beans they are flowering this year. It's a staple that we have in the garden, and I plant it every year and in several places. But as you can see, it's flowering, and if we look in the back, you'll see that we have some tiny green beans coming. We just have to wait for them to fill out. Tiny green beans coming. So soon we'll be having green beans mixed into our dinner. Then as we come over, this is a purple Reaper pepper plant. So it's in the Carolina Reaper super hot family, and I look forward to seeing how big the fruits are, how floral they smell, and how big this plant actually gets. So this is a lot bigger than what I got it. When I got it, it was very, very teeny tiny sapling. I've never grown this variety before. Over here is the pink tiger butt plant. I also got this from as a seedling. It was very small. It's grown miraculously lately, and it has purple leaves. I really love the way it looks. On the side here, we have two ghost peppers. They have little teeny tiny buds coming on them, so that means we'll have some pepper soon. Very breezy out here today. It feels super good. You can hear the chimes going. And then in the back this plant in the back is one that was gifted to me. I did a little bit of research because I didn't save the label for it, and I think it is a chicken eats a pepper plant. So it's not a super hot, but it does get fairly hot. Then in the front, with the greener leaves, greener, wider leaves, you'll see that I have the dragon's breath. It's a super hot pepper. And then over on the side is another pepper, a hot pepper. I'm not sure it's a super hot, but I did lose the label for that. I don't see any fruits on it yet, but I can see that the stems for this particular pepper plant are fairly like purplish in color, and I'm very curious to see what kind of peppers come on this plant. Beside it, we have Scotch bonnet peppers. I see that they have little teeny buds and little peppers in there already. Can't wait. I will be making some hot peppers sauce soon. And one of the things that I love to do in the garden is just sprinkle basil seeds. I don't know if anyone likes pesto like how I like pesto, but I have some basil seeds that I put out, and I can't wait for this basil to get a little bit bigger. It is partially shaded by this habanero pepper plants that I have right beside it, which, if you can see, already have tons of fruit coming in. Same in the back. Tons of fruit coming in already. And then what I call my prized possession over here is my Carolina Reaper plant. What I'm going to do for this plant eventually is go in and trim the leaves at the bottom, take them completely off so that the plant can just keep growing forward, but I'm going to wait for it to have a bit more leaves before I go in and try to do that. And you'll notice that I have stakes that I'm going to Velcro the pepper plants to, so that when we have a huge wind, it will not break the plants off. This plant right here is a bell pepper, and in a previous video you'll see that this bell pepper was significantly shorter, and on the side that had the large bell pepper that I took off of it, it actually grew up taller. So what I did worked by taking the bell pepper off. So I think what I'll do now is, you'll see that we have a big bell pepper on the side. I may pick it off so that this side of the bell pepper plant can grow up tall just like this side did. So that was a little test to see if it worked. Now we know it worked, and I can come back later and pull the bell pepper off. Of course, have a little bit of flowers in here. These are some very pretty marigolds. And then again, we have a different type of basil. This will be the purple basil. I love the way it smells. And it actually does very well if you make a caprese salad. This device is my rain barrel. The rain barrel's purpose is, of course, to collect rain. So on our shutters, we did the attachment. We have the attachment going into the rain barrel. We can collect water. And then what I do is I just use my little spigot with my water can, and I water my plants with fresh rainwater, and they seem to thrive much better using the rain barrel. One day I actually hope to get another rain barrel and attach it side by side, so that I could collect more water. This rain barrel here collects about 50 gallons of water, and it can last me for at least 1 to 2 full waterings of my entire garden. The cherry tomato bush needs a bit of pruning, so I'm going to go in, cut off any of the leaves that are dying. And I'm also, while I'm in here, to keep promoting growth, I will start to pick off a lot of the tomatoes that are ripe. Even if they're split, they don't need to be on the bush, because it'll send a signal to the tomato bush that, it's not being harvested and it shouldn't produce more. Put this over there. So you'll see a lot of the leaves are yellow. I don't even have to trim it. They come right off. Just remove all this from the plant. Come right off. And while I'm in here, get my little basket. I'm gonna pluck off any of the ripe tomatoes, even if they're split, just to get them off the bush. A lot of them are split, so I can't use them. I don't know what may have gotten into them, so just gonna toss them off to the side, but gonna make sure we harvest everything that's ripe off of this bush. The main reason why I'm concentrating on harvesting as much as I can is so that the tomato bush knows to put a lot of energy into the fruits up top, So I'm going to pick out the ones that I keep and put them in my basket over here. A lot of them I can't keep because they're already split. So there's maybe a few of them in here. Put the ones that I can't to the side. Just go in, grab as many tomatoes as I can. They come right off when they're ripe, which is great. We're getting a nice breeze this morning. I want there to be proper airflow. Come in down here, grab the ones that are split and overripe. I got a good little handful here. I'm also going to see if I can maybe pull some of the branches inward, and I'm eventually going to tie them. Get my shears here, run off the dead part. This one actually has a string tied to it, so I'm going to move the string. Let me cut it here. I'm going to move the string. Oh, I tied it to the bush, so I'm going to cut it there, and I'm just going to retie it at the top to keep it from breaking. This is just twine string. I think it's what it's called. I'm going to pull it more toward the top. Run off this sucker here because I see it. I'm going to tie it here. I'm going to try to guide it to go more upward so that it doesn't break. See if I can maybe just tie it to another one that I have tied up already. All right. So I can get in here. There are a lot of tomatoes here. Let me just move them and try to prop it up on this side. Take off the tomatoes back here. Can barely reach them. They're split. Here's a handful that's split. You can kind of see. Uh-oh. Something good for the squirrels to eat. Grab the ones off the bottom. Oh, these aren't split, so that's great. Grab the dead leaves out. So when you have a garden, this is daily maintenance. Sometimes people only come out like once a week, and then they'll notice that a lot of their stuff is messed up. To get the maximum yield, you kind of need to check every other day or daily. We're also going to bring the water hose over. Take out any of the dead leaves. At the bottom. Split, split. We only get one out of this bunch. I'm going to look in here to see which of these zucchini bushes or branches are producing the most, and the one that isn't, I'm going to go ahead and cut it out. I do have zucchinis that I planted from seed. I already see that it's coming out, so now I'm okay with pulling a portion out. And while I'm in here, I'm also going to harvest a small zucchini that I'm going to saute. And here we go. Finally got one at the right size. Fantastic. Put this over to the side. And I'm going to keep looking in to see if it's going to produce any more, because I really want to make room in here to see what's coming in. So I see another one coming here. I'll wait. And then on this plant back here, there are quite a few. So what I'm going to do is, now I'm going to look at the squash plant to see if we have any squash coming in. On this one, it's kind of dormant, one section of it. I'm going to look down at the bottom to see which root is the healthiest. And they both look kind of the same, but I'm going to go in and cut out this one because it looks the least healthy, and pull it out. Move it to the side. As you can see, I created some space in here. Now I can kind of see my cucumbers a little bit better. And down in here, I'll zoom in a second. I planted in some zucchini seeds, and I see that they're now sprouting. Pull out some weeds that are down here. Cover the root a little bit more. Cut out any of these leaves that I don't need. Pull out some weeds. And this is just pretty much daily maintenance. I see that over here we have a squash that's about to come in. I'm hoping that it gets pollinated. But what I'll do is I'm going to help it out a little bit. I have a male flower, which I'm going to clip and show you what a male flower looks like. So we have the male flower here. Ooh, it has a bunch of ants in there too. So male flower, mats. And then the female flower is open. I'll zoom in and show you that. But I'm going to take the male flower, peel away the flower itself, use the middle, and I'm going to pollinate the female flower. So let's take a look. You can't see it, but I can. I'm going to rub it on in, make sure it's good and pollinated so I can get the squash. I'm actually going to leave it in there. Rub it all around. See if I can find me another male flower. This one closed up already, but I'm going to use it to make sure that that female is good and pollinated. Pull back the leaves. Some people eat the leaves from squash blossoms. Put it in there, get it nice and pollinated. Hopefully that gives us a big squash. Just leave this down on the side. Now I'm going to look over here at the zucchini plant. Try to move some of these leaves out of the way. A little maintenance here. Bees in here. Cut out some of these stems, dead leaves. Get all up in there. And I'm starting to see cucumbers come on. I'm going to trim out some of these really big leaves that are going backwards. I'm going to trim out a dead zucchini that did not make. So that we can get a good view. Wish I could twist around this, but I can't. All right, in here, I'll show you I have cucumbers coming in. I do need to, now that I've cut back the squash plant, I need to go in and guide these cucumbers and maybe even thin out one or two plants just to make sure the rest of them can grow and healthy. You see some yellow leaves down at the bottom. That's mainly water damage from it being on the ground. And if we go in here, I think it's great that we start to see some bees go in. Bees are our friendly pollinators here. These are the cucumber plants grabbing onto the string. I'm going to put more string out, maybe see if I can guide it upwards as opposed to across. Here is where you can see, right here is where you can see I cut out part of the squash plant. So now there are two branches left. Eventually I'm going to cut out one more, make it one, but you can see I have zucchini growing in here. So I don't want to quite cut it yet. And this one, thank God, is growing upward. So I might can guide it and tie it to a stake. Then if we come over here, you'll see that I also thinned out this squash plant in particular because one of the branches was making squash and the other one wasn't. So I thinned that one out. I cut all the leaves in the back of the squash, one of which died already, which means that it did not get pollinated properly. Then if you come over here, you'll see the ants are actually pollinating this squash that's coming in. And this is where I used the squash flour. I just rubbed the middle of it in the middle of this one, and now it's pollinated. We have green beans ripening. So I'm gonna clip a few. And what I do is I pretty much move back the leaves to see if I can find any that are ripe enough. Here's one. And then there's another one right beside it that's big enough to actually cut. I cut some the other day, so within a few days of cutting, we can get quite a few green beans, but you really have to look for them. The leaves are super big and luscious over here. I see in a couple days I'm going to need to come out here and pull again. Just going in. There are a lot of flowers out here, which means it's going to put out a lot of green beans. So coming in, just taking a look and a peek to see if I can find any green beans. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 over here. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then a lot of flowers over here. Then there's some here. We have the bush that's actually crawling up the trellis, which is, well, not the trellis, the gate itself. That's good. So it's a good indicator that we'll have a lot of green beans. So for today, I picked, just a little small handful to add to the bunch that I had the other day. And within a couple days' time, I'll have enough green beans for a meal. And while I'm in here, I'm just gonna look over at the carrots. Looking at the carrots, I'm gonna stick my finger down in here like I did the other day to look at the roots to see if any are too close together. Maybe I can start thinning them out because they are pretty close. Pretty close over here. Soil is nice and moist. Just looking in to see if I see any that's too close. I'll thin them out. While I'm in here, look for any weeds that don't belong. So I found one, pluck it out. But the good thing is that the soil is nice and moist. Pluck this weed out. Yeah, they should be a decent size pretty soon. I'm also going to pay very close attention to the leaves up top to make sure that the carrots are not going to flower, meaning they're not going to go to seed too quickly. So I'm going to thin this out. It's not going to make it. It's too close to another carrot. So yeah, the carrots are looking really good. Very important part of my morning is watering. When I water, you'll notice that I'm holding my watering wand very close to the soil. And the reason why I'm doing that is because I want to make sure that I don't get too much water on the leaves. One of the things is if you get too much water on the leaves, it'll cause disease to spread. But the other thing is when you're gonna have a hot day, you don't want your leaves to have like sun scoil, meaning the sun comes in and pretty much bakes up the water on the leaves and it can have a negative impact on your plants. So I'm gonna come in. These that I'm watering this morning are my strawberry bushes. Strawberries are very heavy feeders. They need a lot of water. And one of the things that I'm noticing is my strawberries, because of where they are in the garden, they tend to dry out a lot quicker, which also affects the type of berries that come on the bush. I'm also going to water in these marigolds. They're so full over on this side. I'm very happy about that. Very full. And believe it or not, when I first planted them out, it was just one marigold flower itself. And then as I pluck off the dead flowers, which I have to do a few of these eventually today, when I pluck off the dead flowers, just more and more come back. So this is a very, very full bush, and I'm very happy about that. And while I'm over here, I'll backside water the peppers on this side. So that way when I go inside of the garden enclosure, it's not much I'll have to do on this side because it already got watered from the back. Sometimes it's kind of hard when you're on the inside of here because you don't know how damp it is. But the inside of the enclosure is pretty damp. We noticed that the green beans were very damp already. So I can come in here. I already watered from the back side of it, water from the front side. I have one marigold in here. My purple basil is getting very full, which is I'm very happy about because I use purple basil to make various tomato sauces, mainly for spaghetti. We eat a lot of spaghetti in my house. So pretty much come in and water the peppers all over in the front. I even water all the soil around it. And that's because the roots on the plants themselves kind of like spread out. So I try to water down at the bottom. Notice that I'm not watering the leaves up top. I also don't want a lot of splash damage on the bottom leaves. So eventually I'll come out here and I will trim leaves from the bottom of these pepper plants to prevent splash damage. Splash damage meaning, you know, dirt and insects or whatever is in the soil to come up on the leaves. We'll do that. I don't need to water the carrots so much, but I'll give them a little sprinkle. But I am going to water in these green beans just because I know that they have a lot of flowers on them. They have a lot of green beans coming, and I'm pretty happy about that. So we're done on this side. And then what I'm going to do is just pretty much finish watering the other sides of the garden. I'm going to close off this, make sure no squirrels come in and give me a visit and eat up my things that are on the inside of the enclosure. And just what I do is I sometimes take breaks. And so because I have tomato plants over here, I'm going to give them a good soaking. And when I say soaking, I'm just going to pretty much turn the water hose, the wand onto soaker, leave it down. And once I leave it down, I can start doing other things like move the hose around so that when I come to this side, it's easier for me to do. You'll see we have a lot of stuff in the back of the garden. And this is just part of my morning routine. It's just to come in, water, weed, observe the plants, and see everything that I need to do for the plants themselves. The sun's coming out, so that's a clear indicator that it's time for me to go back inside.